Folks, rumors of our death greatly exaggerated. We are back and we are live. I'm your host Dash V, and got some returns. Both Jeremy is back,
How you doing?
a man of many words, a man of many words. So, but we also have Tyler Hogle with us from Screaming Villains. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, what's up?
So we all have something in common, which is Jeremy's already beaten it, but Tyler and I are both partway through Detroit Become Human. And interesting bit of trivia for me, not so much an interesting bit of trivia for Tyler, because if you know Tyler, you should already know this. Big into full motion video games. And so this is really interesting in that it's not a full motion video game, but to me, it kind of like it's everything I ever dreamt or imagined a full motion video game to be back in the 90s when it was being advertised by Sega and all that other stuff. So this is kind of like everything that we ever imagined FMV would be, at least for me. I don't know how you feel about that, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing. Like with Heavy Rain, that was another game that same studio did. And when I first played that was actually my favorite game last gen. And when I first played that, I was like, wow, this is like a perfect Sega CD game. So yeah, I always thought that.
Nice. So Jeremy, my friend, were you, before we get too much into Detroit itself, like the FMV scene, full motion video based gaming, what are your thoughts on that?
That looked really neat. I was like, damn, this is how far we've gone with gaming? It's crazy.
Well, Detroit, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking before Detroit, though. Like, what were your thoughts on games like Night Trap, Double Switch? Did any of those ever really do it for you?
Not really. I mean, I understand it. They're trying, never my thing. Never was that impressed. I should have thought shit because I don't know how to do it, but yeah.
Now, another interesting distinction, too, is, Jeremy, you're playing this on the standard PS4 Pro, right? Or the standard PS4,
the regular launch release PS4.
Yeah. So, Tyler, what are you playing it on?
I'm playing it on a Pro.
Yeah, I'm also playing it on the Pro. I don't think there's a huge difference. My understanding is that the PS4 Pro one the resolution is higher, but it's like a checkerboard rendering of the higher resolution.
Yeah, it does that.
Now that said, this is hands down, with the exception of maybe Horizon Zero Dawn, this is the best looking PlayStation 4 game I've ever played. Hands down.
So, I haven't played Zero Dawn yet, so I can confirm or deny that one.
So
yeah, I haven't played that one yet either.
So, but this one's really, really good. In fact, I don't know if you guys have dwelled on the title screen for any length of time.
No.
You should. Yeah.
She trips me out.
She'll be looking like Tyler. Sometime just let the game run at the title screen, and the host, that android, she just kind of like looks out, and she'll just be all like, "Huh, that's a really nice sofa. I like it." Right? She's like,
on the weekend, she's like, "Oh, it's a good weekend to play this game." I was like, "Wow, that's awesome."
Yeah. Oh, hi, happy weekend. Let's play. Right? Like, you're like, what the literal hell? She knows it's the weekend. Like,
there's another thing she does, but I'm not going to say because it's spoilerish, but it's something I did see when my girlfriend was playing through it.
Any spoilers, stop watching now.
Yeah, I do have to say, folks, so thank you, Tyler, for saving us from that spoiler, but folks,
yeah,
because of the nature of the game, it's impossible. Well, not impossible. It's just highly unlikely that all three of us have had the same playthrough. Jeremy's finished the game, but even then, there's parts of the game that he's never seen. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about mostly the beginning parts of the game. I think we're going to stick to maybe the first hour or so of the game, just to give you guys a flavor of, and back up some of our claims about the game and what we think makes it so great. But I did want to give folks a heads up. If you have played zero of this, there's two things I can do to help save you from a spoiler. Number one, if you played zero of it, stop maybe watching for now. Go download the demo, play the demo, because we're definitely going to spoil the hell out of the demo. But I can say, if you haven't played the demo, also don't watch the trailer, because the trailer spoils the hell out of the demo. So So those are the two things. I warned you. So if you keep watching, thank you. But I warned you. It's your own fault if you get spoilers. So how'd y'all do in the demo, Jeremy? I'm gonna say the by demo. I guess I mean the first opening sequence with Connor.
Okay, the tutorial level. I liked it. I aced it when I played it.
Did you save the fish?
Yes.
All right, Tyler. Did you save the fish?
Yeah, I saved the fish, but I did it later though. I didn't realize you could save the fish the first time I played it. I didn't even notice it.
Awesome. So how many of you did you grab the gun, Jeremy?
Yes.
Now later on, did you lie about having grabbed the gun?
Truth. I figured he'll trust me more if I tell him the truth.
Awesome. Did you find out his name?
Yes. So, I found everything before you went outside.
Nice. Tyler, how about you?
Yeah, I did all that. Like, I don't know if it was my first try, but I know eventually, like when that demo came out, I played it for like probably a good 2 hours just trying to do different stuff. So eventually I did get 100% on just the demo and I saw everything on there. But yeah, I did get the gun and lied about having it, told the truth about having it. I did all of it on that level.
Oh yeah. My wife and I, we kind of did the same thing as you. My wife and I really are enjoying taking turns on this game. And so what we'll do is we'll do a full playthrough of it. For the demo, we do a full playthrough end to end, and then we'd go back and one of us would do different choices. For the game, we're not going back for anything. We're just accepting the outcome of our choices.
That's why I did the first time around. Now go back and finishing it.
But my wife will do 2 or 3 scenes, and then I'll do 2 or 3 scenes. And so when I'm doing it, I'm not allowed to ask her for help. Even if I do, she won't help me. When she's playing the same deal. So what's really interesting is it's like there's some scenes in it that are intense enough when it's you making the choice. It gets even more intense when you're seeing somebody else makes a whole bunch of choices that you're like, ooh, I would not have made those choices. And then they hand the controller to you. And it's like, okay, thanks a lot. Like, where the hell do I go from here? So it's been a really fun experience for us playing the game. And we're looking forward to going back and replaying some of those. But when we played the demo, same as you, Tyler, like we 100% of that demo. We played it for a good 2 hours or so, just doing every single possible scenario.
I had going back to what you were saying, I had that problem with my girlfriend too. Like while she was playing the game, she would be on levels that I had already beaten. And she's like, what do I do? And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. You can't get a game over in this. So whatever you do is going to determine what happens next. I can't tell you what to do. You just do whatever. It's kind of hard surprisingly, it's kind of hard to explain that to some people. Like she kind of didn't get it at first. And then after a while, she's like, okay, I got it now.
Now I do have to tell people, because the game is very charged in its reception. There's people that are really enjoying it. There's people that are like, I don't get it. This is terrible. Some people are even saying the game's not worth $60.
That blows me away that people say that.
I think this is one of the few games I've played this generation that's worth every dollar. Like really, I mean the production quality in this, the graphics, the sound, I've been so excited. Like we almost didn't have a show tonight because folks, I am so excited to play more of this game to find out what happens next. That that's all I could think about like all day was I want to see what happens next. It's almost like when you binge watch a show and then you have to stop because you have to go to work the next day or do something or whatever, and you're at a really good cliffhangery point. Like this game,
all day at work, you're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about like what's going to happen. What are the choices I'm going to make? What if I'd made a different choice? Would that have made any difference, or would have been the same outcome? And it's just so like imagine the best show you've ever binge watched, and the most anxious you've ever been about a cliffhanger, and that's scene after scene after scene in this game. Although I do have to say, like the first 2 scenes there's 3 characters that you play as in the game. There's Marcus, who's actually the one featured on the cover. But there's Connor, who you play as in the demo. There's Kara, and there's Marcus. So Connor starts out pretty high stakes. You're in a hostage negotiation. That's the demo that we talked about. Yeah. And so Kara is more like a, like Susie Homemaker type thing. And Marcus is like a
caretaker slash son.
Yeah, caretaker, in-home nurse type thing. And so these two characters, you're going to play a really intense scene with Connor, followed by literally doing the dishes and helping an old man take a dump. That's literally like the beginning of the game. So it's very jarring because you go from like this whole like little girl hanging over a ledge, right? Like trying to stop this android from killing her to like, all right, Marcus, time to take me to the bathroom, right?
You can unclog a toilet with Kara too.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know about because that's how much this game has. I didn't know about some of that.
Yeah, when you're cleaning the house with her, like you can do optional stuff too. And one of them is you can go in they have a bathroom and a restroom, like two separate rooms.
Yeah.
And then the bathroom, it just has a toilet, and then you can go in there and unclog it. Or no, I think it's the restroom, and then the bathroom's separate where there's no toilet, and then when you go in there, you can mop the floor.
So what really the reason that I'm going into detail about this part of the game, folks, is because it would be easy to play both those scenes back to back and be like, what the hell, man? Like seriously, like especially because so we played the high stakes hostage negotiation thing or whatever, right? We got past that, and then something, I don't remember what happened. We had company or something happened, and we had to put the game down. So the next time we played was a day later. I just finished cleaning the house, helping my wife clean the house like all day. And I'm like, all right, finally sit down, see what happens next. It's cleaning the effing house. I'm like, dude, seriously, I just finished doing this in real life.
My girlfriend said the same thing. She was sitting there playing it, and she's all like, oh, I got to clean the house in a fucking video game after I just cleaned their house for real. And yeah, she like complained about that for like a good 20 minutes.
So I have to say, I'm glad, like those two scenes kind of made me glad it wasn't in VR. Because those scenes wouldn't have gotten any better I'm unplugging the toilet, right? I'm unclogging the toilet in VR. Awesome. That's just what I wanted to do, right? But I have to say, like some of the hostage negotiation scene, I think would have been fucking mind blowing in VR.
Yeah.
So and there's a couple other scenes down the road that I don't want to spoil for Jeremy, but there was one scene in particular. I'm like, dude, if I had to experience that scene in VR, all of us have gotten to the part where the abusive father, right?
Yeah.
So that I don't know if I could have handled that in VR. I think that would have been too fucking intense, honestly.
By the way, Brittany's listening. Now she wants to come over tomorrow and play.
Brittany, it is an amazing game. It's a really good game. And do the take turns thing. But don't cheat and let each other Jeremy's like, no. It's come on, Jeremy. You already played through the whole game at least once.
That's why she should play by herself.
Fair enough. But you can't cheat and give her
I'm gonna give her all the better options.
I have to say, so far, like I've gotten Connor killed so many times.
Only once for me. I've gotten killed once so far. He's my favorite character, so I want to look out for him.
Oh my god. So trust me, and what's kind of hilarious, like I feel bad for Connor's partner.
Oh right? Yeah.
Connor's partner, like, yeah, like Hank is not having a good fucking time of this. Like for me, like literally every scene, he's seeing his partner get like just fucking demolished in some horribly graphic way, and then like 10 minutes later, like
he's back.
I'm Connor. I'm the android sent by CyberLife, and he's like, for the love of God.
Yeah, I remember that. He's like, he got pissed. Like when I first died, he got pissed when he back.
So you're talking during the interrogation, right?
Yes.
So did you do the interrogation as well, Tyler?
Yeah, I did that one.
So and did you have Connor got shot in the head at the end of the interrogation?
Yeah.
Oh shit! When that happened, I was mad.
So here's the deal. Like maybe I wasn't really entirely sure what I was supposed to do in that interrogation. Was I supposed to make him upset, or was I supposed to put him at ease?
Without him going berserk, from what I gathered.
Okay. Supposed to get the truth out of him without him going berserk. Okay.
Yeah, but from what I saw, I'm not gonna go there. I need to go back and beat it still.
Yeah. So I am going to go back and play that. Now, did any of you go back into the interrogation room as the replacement Connor afterwards?
No.
Dude.
No, I didn't do that either.
If you go back into the interrogation room the next day as the replacement unit, they've cleaned up the whole area and everything. But when you do the whole like mind palace thing, right, where you can see everything, you can see the blood stain, the blue blood stain on the table from the droid. And you can see the blue blood stain on the corner of the wall where you got shot and it went through out the back of your head. Like, the attention to detail in this game is insane.
When can you go back to it? Is it when you go to where you like in the level where you investigate or not investigate, where you like kind of go through Hank's desk?
Yes, it's when you show up at the police department to visit Hank, and then you go and you talk to the captain there. So I made the mistake, by the way, of so all of you talked to the captain, right?
Yes.
What did you ask him when you finally got a chance to speak?
I forgot what I said, but I got pissed.
What'd you say, Tyler?
I can't remember what it was either, but I know he did start yelling afterwards.
Yeah, like I think I should have asked him about the files because I couldn't get into the archive room and I wanted to. But the archive room requires authorization, and it looks like there's an unlock in there for the archive room. But unfortunately, I asked him about Hank, right? Because I'm just thinking like, oh, I'll just ask him some benign questions. So I picked the question to ask him about Hank, right? And he goes,
yeah,
do you really think Hank is the right man for this assignment? And
don't tell me how.
Yeah, that's the one I did.
Yeah,
oh man, the commissioner just freaking goes off, right? And so like he kicks me out, and my wife goes, "Well, that went well." So
yeah, now you mentioned that I remember that's the one I did too.
My goodness. Now with Kara,
I got her killed right away, so I lost using her.
Yeah. Now explain to me though what happened. Like, how did you go in with a gun? Did you go in unarmed? Like,
remember when he's abusing the daughter, and he says sit there, like don't move. So that's what I did. I just sat there the whole time.
Yeah.
Then finally the cussing happens, and you see what happens, and both die. Spoiler alert, by the way. Yeah.
Wow. So he killed the girl and he killed you.
Yes.
And that pretty much for you that ended her storyline.
That was the end of the timeline. I could not use her after that. So I had to go back so I could see the rest of her storyline.
Wow. And you beat the whole game without her being in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not
so I
like
have to go back and see how she, winds into the rest. I know.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. Now, Tyler, what happened with you and Kara?
I found the gun while cleaning the house, and then I shot the dad.
Yeah, that was pretty much that's what happened with me as well. So I found the I found the gun.
Actually, I did go back and help them escape afterwards. So they ran across the street, and I can access it still. So I have to figure that out.
Gotcha. In your second play, right?
Yeah. I like how you can't just go do it. You have to break through the barrier.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Now, there's some things in there. I'll get a bit deeper into the game and some of the subtext, at least that I read into the game, and we'll talk about some other people's comments and stuff like that I think maybe they're kind of missing the point of the game in a little bit. But to your point, Tyler, I did the same thing as you. I actually found I was doing the house cleaning and I found the gun, and then the next time it was Kara's storyline. I gave the controller to my wife. So my wife is actually the one that went and took him on and ended up same deal. And it was intense. Like I almost thought she wasn't going to make it because the dad beat the living hell out of her. And then, picking her up and physically throwing her and breaking bookshelves.
I fist fought him. I didn't use a gun when I took care of that part.
Yeah.
And that's a tense part when you fist fight the guy.
Wow. You fist fought him and beat him? Damn.
So I have to go back and do the gun. See, that just shows you how awesome this game. There's multiple, more than 2, more than 3 sometimes.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. So now that gets into a point that I guess I want to make. Like, the director / creator, I think he's the director or producer or whatever, from Quantic Dream. He was interviewed several times about the game and asked like, what's the message of the game. And you might have an interesting perspective on this. If you're able to share it without spoiling, feel free. But my perspective so far, just getting as far into the game as I have, several hours into the game, he made a statement that the game isn't trying to actually make any statements. It's just trying to present a plausible version of the future and give you the opportunity to kind of, okay, if this was the future, what would you do with it, right? And I have to say, like, a lot of people are giving him flack, and they're pointing out all these different things in the game, and they're saying, oh, but you have this in there, and you have this in there, and you have this in there. Like, why? There's references to Elon Musk's Hyperloop in there. There's references to Russia and America, Cold War Part 2 tensions with fighting for the ice caps and things like that. There's all these different things, and I agree with the creator. Like, I don't see him making statements. I see him presenting possible realities, and the only statements that really get made are by the choices that you make, right? You could play the game and make a series of choices that could affect the story in different ways. He presents this future where androids have they're starting to take over sports. They're starting to take over regular jobs. They're starting to take over even skilled jobs. And he's not, I mean, certainly the people in the game have the way that they feel about it, but you're not playing from their perspective. You're playing from the android's perspective. And so, and to your point, Jeremy, there's the whole breaking programming. That's a choice that you can make or not make. In your case, you decided to stick to the program, right?
Yeah.
And
there's multiple times where you can stay with the program or not. And you always have the option of breaking it or not. So it depends how you want to play it.
Yeah. And I think that that's really interesting, because a lot of times, not just when you break the programming, but a lot of times when you do something where you're valuing life that you didn't necessarily need to value, like when you pick up the fish and you put it in the fish bowl, there's this little flicker and it says software instability. When you save,
I like that, Connor.
Yeah, when you save the guy on the balcony that got shot, right? And he does the whole, like, if you touch that guy, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, you can't kill me. I'm not alive. And then he, uses his tie and makes a tourniquet. You see software instability. What I kind of like is there's many points in the game, and I'll ask you folks in a second if you picked up, but there's many points in the game where if you don't make a choice, the game will time out, so to speak, and make a choice for you.
Yeah.
And like when you're looking around the apartment, you can't look around the apartment indefinitely before the negotiation. Like, there will be a certain limit of time where it forces you out onto the balcony with whatever information you manage to get or not get. So you kind of have to, you can look around, but you can't, like, lounge around.
You usually play a time, though. Don't feel rushed, because I didn't know that happened. Like, I took my time and never forced me out.
Yeah, so you have to spend a lot of time, but still it's there. Now, when you're actually on the terrace with him, right? A lot of the dialogue, you have very fixed amount of time.
Yeah, it shows you unlocking. That shows you unlocking things if you actually unlocked it.
Yeah, and there's like a little timer that like runs down where it'll make a default choice. Now, one of the things I thought was really
is time. Like, you got, because I'm not paying attention. I was like, oh shit,
Yeah. Now, what I like about it is a lot of the things that are optional for you to do are the things that cause the software instability.
Yeah.
If you just kind of follow the program and let the default options take over, you don't get those software instability markers. And so what I thought was really interesting is, the choices that the machines are making that are making them more human, in a very meta and very real sense. Quantic Dream is basically saying, look, like, you are the player, you're the ghost in the machine, right? Like, you are the humanity, right? So this thing is just a machine, it's just a tool. But and if you just are a machine and are a tool, right, when you see something happen that puts somebody in danger or hurts somebody or something like that, like, do you just stand there and do nothing because that's that's what protects you, or that's what keeps you safe, or that's what keeps you comfortable? Or are you actually going to go against the grain and say, no, this is wrong, I'm going to say something, I'm going to do something, but the game will happily let you choose either outcome and continue weaving a story around the choices that you've made. It doesn't force you. I can't say that. Like, it very seldomly forces you into a specific choice. It allows you to make a choice and live with the consequences, good or bad. So did you pick up on that, Tyler, or do you think I'm like just reading too much into it?
The choice thing, I saw how it counts down, but I never let it actually select an option for me, so I'm not sure how that works exactly because I haven't seen it yet. But I don't like it. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me if it somehow was set up to where it would select a choice based off of what you did previously in the game. I could see that being a possibility, but like I said, I haven't done it yet, so I'm not even sure exactly how it works. But as far as like having like this hidden meaning or underlying message in the game, and the interview being the director or writer being interviewed about it, like I don't think there's like a hidden meaning in the game or some underlining message, but at the same time, I'm kind of stupid when it comes to stuff like that with video games, because like I look at games as a form of entertainment. I'm not trying to I guess get some sort of message out of it. I don't have that mindset when I play a game, but it's like how you were saying people were kind of calling them out on specific things. It's like the script for the game is 2,000 pages long. Eventually, something like that is going to creep out. Like, I mean, whether you did it on purpose or not. So, I mean, when you're writing something that's that long, it's kind of unavoidable. But I don't think they set out to purposely do that. I think, like you said, it's just like a possible future.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense to me, really. I mean, plus, like, if you look at the game, it's clearly obvious that it's heavily it's like very much influenced by iRobot, the Will Smith movie, because there's a lot of stuff in that game that reminds me of that movie.
Oh yeah. Well, especially when they're talking about like the company building AIs to try to make the perfect calculation for who to save in a impossible situation.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely nods to iRobot in there. There's a lot of things. I think you're right, by the way. I was going to ask Jeremy, but I see that he just went to mute and no camera, so he must have stepped out for a moment. But
oh yeah, but
oh, go ahead.
I won't want to. This isn't like a spoiler because I'm not really saying anything about the story. But when like going back to how it automatically selects a choice for you, and the possibility maybe it's based off of what you've done previously.
Yeah,
the game actually does keep track of what you do, because like when my girlfriend, like I said, she beat the game already. So I saw like the very end. I didn't see the storyline or anything like that, but after you beat the game, like an extra section appears on the main menu, and when you go to it, there's a survey you actually take in the game. It's like a 13-question survey.
I took that survey and I haven't beat the game yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did it, and it was like a 13-question survey asking a bunch of stuff that happened throughout the game while she was playing, asking how she felt doing certain things in different scenarios. And then at the end, it like compared her answers to other people that were presented with those same questions too, like showing you like a percent, like what percentage of players picked answer A and B and C and D and stuff like that. So maybe it does kind of keep track of stuff like that to where it will automatically select stuff for you.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, I think the default answers that it selects are the same every time. I don't think
that's possible too. I mean, like I said, I could be totally wrong because I haven't had to select a default one. So I mean, it's very possible.
Yeah, I thought that I think, I guess I want to make my stance clear, because my stance is very similar to yours. I mean, I know I mentioned like there's subtext and there's this and there's that, but I guess what I really more meant to say was I can, like, me making choices in the game, seeing the context laid out in the game and the consequences of the choices, and combining that with my own thoughts, opinions, understandings, right? Like I can see messages brought out from the game that, to your point, I don't think that the director put in there on purpose. Like I don't feel like in playing the game that he's planted a message there for me to find. I feel like he is provided an environment where I can have an experience that's customized to me, my choices, my experiences, my values. And now based on that, I'm going to have an experience that's going to force me to kind of, at least in my personality type, I'm going to have questions. And so my wife and I have talked about the game almost as much as we've actually played the game. And we've talked about different themes that we've seen present in the game. We've talked about, like, what do we think that they totally nailed in terms of the future? What do we think, is maybe an over exaggeration or less likely to be correct? And that's really where, for me, the subtext and the meaning and everything comes out. I don't feel like the game like hits you over the head with like, oh, here's this and it's bad, or oh, here's this and it's good. It just says, oh, here's this. And some people are really kind of ravaged by it. Other people are kind of like really like on the one hand, you have this scene with Marcus, especially, right? You have this dichotomy of, like, he gets the living hell beat out of him almost, just trying to fricking come home with some paint supplies that he bought. He's not messing with anybody, but just people want to fuck with him because they've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, they've lost their livelihood, and they blame him and his kind for it. Now, on the flip side, right? Marcus is in a house 24/7 with this guy that can't even go to the toilet by himself because he's completely, disabled in that way. And he's rendering a service for this guy that the guy, yes, you could get that from a human, but what human's going to do it without pissing and moaning, without at some point wanting a raise, without like all that? Like, in some ways, Marcus is like, he's a saint. He's doing a really good job, and he's doing it better than any human is going to do it, with a better attitude and temperament than any human was ever going to have at it. And so that's what I mean by, like, if the game was just about androids bad, right, humans good, you wouldn't have this dichotomy there, right? The same character within the same section of gameplay, hell beat out of them, you're bad, you're evil, you're demonized. There's literally a guy on the street calling you a demon. And then the next one, you're like taking somebody to the bathroom and wiping their tush, right? Like, in a very caring, very respectful way. And that's another thing I guess I really love about the game, is that it's presenting really deep, really adult subject matter, but so far from what I've experienced, it is doing it professionally and artfully as hell.
Right.
I mean, it's really well put together and presented.
Did you ever play Heavy Rain?
I was gonna say I have not. I played the demo of Heavy Rain, but I didn't play the full game.
You need to play that one too.
Yeah.
It's just like Detroit. Detroit is basically like an improved version of Heavy Rain. But Heavy Rain kind of has like an underlying message to it, because, like, not trying to spoil anything, but like the whole way, like the way that game came about was, if I remember correctly, it's been about 8 years now since that game came out. I think the guy that did it, who also did Detroit, he was saying that, like, the way Heavy Rain came about was like he was thinking about what would happen if something happened with his kids. Like, what would his life be like if his kids were gone and all that stuff? And then that's where the idea of Heavy Rain came about. So it explores the whole family thing a lot.
Wow.
And I think but that's like, that message is basically throughout the entire game. It's unavoidable. But like with something like Detroit, I think if you get any messages out of it, it's going to be based off of what you do in the game. Because like how you were using, for example, how he gets beat up when he's picking up paint supplies from by a group of people complaining about how they lost their job to androids. Like, you could skip that part and just walk right past them, and then you won't get that message out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's just like, obviously there's messages in there because people are picking up on that, but I think what message you get out of it, it's going to depend on how you play the game.
Oh, absolutely.
So where there's not a definitive message or an overall message, but there's a bunch of, like, I guess, small ones, which is something that, like, something I noticed a lot of reviews complaining about, saying that, like, the game doesn't have a cohesive message, I guess you could say. But it's just like, well, when you're playing a 10-hour game that has branching storylines, and on top of that, it has a 2,000-page script, it's kind of hard to maintain one message through the entire thing. You're going to have several of them in there, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I could be completely wrong on it, but that's how I interpret it.
I think that you're right on, and me, I don't have a huge, I'm similar from you in that, like, I play games certainly to be entertained,
Right.
but I differ a bit from you in that, like, for me, I'm like, I'm really into a deep story. But deep story doesn't necessarily have to mean, 1,500 pages of like a really thick plot line. Like to me, the depth in Detroit is amazing. Like I feel like when we pick up with Kara, and we, it first starts out like you can't, like at first my wife's like, is the controller broken or the battery's dead? Like I can move the stick, but I can't do anything else. And I go, oh wait, well we're in a shop, so maybe you're on display, right? Like because there's these people looking at androids and you can kind of see them. And then and I think it's Todd, right? Todd's the dirtbag dad.
Yeah, Todd.
So Todd comes walking in, and I'm here for my pickup, blah blah blah, and you find out, oh yeah, you're seeing the store through Kara's eyes, and there's some subtext there already of like, she was pretty messed up. What happened to her? It's like, oh, she was hit by a car, right? Like, it's a very short scene, a very simple scene, but it immediately establishes who the fuck Todd is,
Right.
and just how dangerous he is, right? You may or may not see the pictures that the little girl has drawn that she keeps in her lockbox, depending on whether or not you can gain her trust. But you don't necessarily need to see those pictures to know where things are headed with Todd and that he's bad news.
Right.
Now,
it's like the whole cleaning scene. People are kind of complaining about, but it's like, I feel like that scene's necessary just because you kind of, just from that scene, you get to know Alice, you get to know Todd, and you find out, I mean, basically what type of, I guess, android Kara is to Todd. And it builds on a lot of stuff, just during the cleaning part of the game.
Absolutely. And I think that I think to your point on that, to back it up, Todd definitely, like, on the one hand, there's again that dichotomy, right? Like on the one hand, you got Todd's life is basically in his mind been destroyed by androids. They've androidified every job that he could possibly work. He's constantly getting turned down for applications because as you're tidying up, you see all these denied job applications and everything. And his wife left him for an accountant, right? Because that's the one job I guess apparently androids can't do yet. I think this is one of those things about the future the game gets wrong. I think you'll have android accountants before you'll have android construction workers.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because the degree of difficulty, right? Like to keep an android together while it's operating a jackhammer, degree of difficulty is much higher than it being able to crunch numbers. It's basically what computers are built to do. So there are times when I think the game gets it not quite so. They don't make Back to the Future level, prediction errors. I think a lot of what they do is probably 80% right. But there'll be some things here and there. But at the same time, androids have destroyed Todd's life. Only an android with Kara's initial temperament and an android's lack of initial judgment, only an android like that would go into a shithole of a house like what Todd lives in, clean it, care for it, and do it without pissing and moaning. Literally the only thing Kara has any kind of objection to is when he's, when he's taking out his anger on his daughter, which is, justified. But to your point about the message, you could decide to stand by and do nothing. You're going to get a certain message, out of that outcome. You could decide to go and confront Todd with a gun, and you're going to get a certain message based on how that turns out. I just found out from Jeremy, like, I honestly didn't know if it was possible to overpower Todd with the gun. I had no idea. And I was neither me or my wife, right? Because when she went to get the gun, right? Because she's like, what should I do? I go, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just reminding you that there was a gun earlier. And she goes, oh, I'm going and I'm getting that. And so what was really interesting was that, like, neither my wife nor myself felt in that situation like there was a way through it without a gun. So it's interesting to know that the game doesn't weave the narrative in such a way that the gun is the only option. If you're somebody that like, you think that there's a different way, maybe, whether you think it's a better way or whatever, you think there's a different way, the game lets you explore that. And that's kind of neat that it lets you explore that and have I'm sure you can have both outcomes. It's probably based on how well you go fist to fist with him, whether or not he beats the hell out of you and reduces you to parts again, or if you actually overpower him. But so in that sense,
and like the other guy was saying,
message.
he said that like his first time playing it, like Alice got killed, and then he didn't play as Kara again through the rest of the game. And I know there's a way you can have Kara get killed on that scene too.
Yeah. So what I don't know, and I'll be interested to play through and find out, I don't know if it's possible for Kara to leave without the girl.
That I don't know.
I don't know. And the reason that I wonder that is because there's been a couple of articles that you get a certain amount in the game and you start reading like the news articles of what's going on with the different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I was noticing that when you read about what's happening with this one particular scene, it talks about what happened in a very vague way, and it only mentions Kara and Connor. It doesn't mention the little girl. It doesn't even mention that there's a little girl involved. And so I'm hoping I'm just reading too much into that, and that they just decided to make it super generic. But I don't. It'd be unsettling to me if there was a reality where either the girl dies and Kara goes on, or Kara goes on leaving the girl with that guy. Like I don't know that I could personally stomach that storyline. Not saying that they shouldn't have wrote it and made it or whatever if they did, but I just mean my temperament. You know, having a kid, right? And you know, knowing how helpless and defenseless sometimes they can be. I can't. The scene with Todd was very difficult because the entire time the stakes are right, like this, you don't want him hurting this girl, right? And what's really interesting for me is that to go on now, like once you've removed in our playthrough, we were able to remove the girl from Todd's custody. We ended Todd and then we removed the girl from his custody. And now we're on the run. There's several other scenes now that like put her in peril, and it's just there was one in particular where they didn't time the button, and I wish that they had, because like literally like you're just standing there, and it looks like Jeremy's not here. Jeremy, you there? Okay. All right. I don't think Jeremy's there, so I'm gonna go ahead and say this scene. So there's a scene where most of the game it's actually kind of frustrating. Like the androids won't cross the street unless it's at a crosswalk. They just won't do it. It's like their basic programming. And so Kara actually gets to this part where it's like it's the cops gonna get her and take away the girl, or it's like run out into the middle of traffic with the girl.
Oh, okay. I know which part you're talking about.
And I'm like, and you're there and you're standing on the friggin' divider, and all you see is like these cars like blurring by, and then there'll be a break, and then blurring by, and then there's a break, and it's just like press X. There's no cancel, there's no back, there's no look to the left or right. Like you're just straight forward, and it's like, you know, commit that this is going to happen. Like you're only viable. The game does this very few times, but this is one of the times where it's like, okay, at this point, all of your choices led you to you either run across this, you know, 4 or 5 lane highway or whatever. I think it's a 6 lane highway. You run across this 6 lane highway and make it with the girl, or you're done right here and now. Like that's it. And they don't let you accept the capture. They don't let you to accept getting captured. So all you can do is decide to take her, the girl, with you and run through traffic. And so and it is so frigging intense. Like it's really difficult to describe. It was fitting that like when we played against Todd and we were fighting him, my wife was fighting against Todd and trying all this stuff and doing all this stuff, and she was successfully able to overpower him and take him out with the gun the first time. But me, I'm just like, you know, he's killing you, dude. He just smashed you through the window. Right?
Right.
Like what the, like he's killing you. And she's like, I know, but this is harder than it looks, right? And you know the stakes are like super high. The flip, right, was like she's like, oh, you're gonna get hit, like that car is gonna. And but what was
Can
really
you get
interesting,
hit by a car there?
you totally can. In fact, that was the second time Connor died on me. Like, because here's what's really tricky. Do you
But
remember, like,
what if you're using Kara on that part? Because you got to use her during that part too. Can she get hit by a car?
so here's the deal, right? I did get nicked a couple of times. I got nicked and knocked down a couple of times. I have to imagine it's possible for her to get hit and die, because when I looked at the flow chart, that whole freeway part like explodes into possibilities.
Yeah.
And so in my particular one, Connor got hit by a garbage truck, and he was just gone, right? Like suddenly one moment Connor was you know was resisting, and holding me back, and then the next it's just like I'm good, like we're all good. But it was pretty intense. So I'm kind of, part of me is looking forward to playing that again because the adrenaline rush was quite awesome, but part of me is not looking forward to playing it again because I don't know that I could handle an outcome where the girl gets hit but Kara doesn't, right?
Right.
So I mean, I could deal with Kara getting hit. I still wouldn't enjoy it, but the again, just the thought of putting the kid in peril, right? Which is a common theme actually in the game, right? You start out with a girl over their ledge. You start out with a girl, in multiple situations, multiple scenarios of danger. So I hope they don't play that theme to death. I think that they'll probably be okay since there's two other characters that you can jump across different storylines and that kind of thing.
Did you play the level where crap, I'm trying to think which one it is. It's the one where when they're trying to find a place to stay when Kara leaves with Alice, and then an android gives Kara an address to go to where she can get help. Did you play that level?
I got that part. Yeah, you're talking about where you try to figure out a place to stay for the night. You have to decide whether or
not that one. The one where you're inside the mansion.
Oh, I haven't done that part yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done that part yet. So, and what'll be interesting is if I get to that part, right? One of the things that I'm cautiously optimistic for, because I've been let down before with games like Life is Strange and things like that. What I mean by let down by games like Life is Strange is the illusion of choice, right? You
Right.
have it seems like you can change stuff, and maybe you can change one or two things, but the overall narrative, it remains the same. I'm actually comforted and very a little bit more enthusiastic for a second playthrough, where you said that you've read some reviews where people complain that the narrative is too loose for them. I actually appreciate that, because I look forward to playthroughs where maybe the game goes incredibly differently than it did before, and not just for
Right.
one or two scenes. Like I want the whole damn, I wouldn't mind if the whole end half of the game was different, radically different, even if it meant like a bad outcome, just because to me, I'm curious now to hear that like Kara can die and she doesn't, like, so I've already seen Connor die, but he just comes back like repeatedly. And I thought that they wove this really excellent narrative about why that can be. Like, he's basically like a prototype. He's on loan to the police, and as long as he keeps tanking, they're just going to keep churning out another copy of the prototype and copying the data. So they have this nice plot mechanic in there to where Connor is basically like, make your choices with Connor with abandon. Like, don't really worry too much if he dies. I don't know if that's the case with Marcus. I do know that Marcus was able to come back from the dead at least once, but it sounds like Kara, one and done. You don't have a shot. So I'm really curious to see how that changes Connor's narrative, since the version of the game that I'm playing has had Connor's and Kara's narratives interweave. So it'll be interesting to see how Connor's scenes play out when they're not interweaving in with a Kara narrative.
I want to know how many endings are in the game, because I've seen a lot of conflicting stuff with that too. And
in terms of people saying that there's not multiple endings, or that there is multiple endings,
I've seen different answers. Like, because like I've looked this up a couple of times just to try to figure it out. But like, there was an interview with someone that worked on the game. I don't know if it was the director or writer or if it was someone else, but they said there was over 1,000 different endings.
Oh wow!
But then I read somewhere else that there's only 45. But then I found another website where there's a list of them, where it lists all the endings, and there was only 16 listed.
That's still a lot of fucking endings. I'm comforted that that's still more than 2.
Right? And then I think with
I could do 60.
I think with the trophies too, like when my girlfriend beat it, she got hit with 8 trophy unlocks, like at the very end, like during the credits. So, but going off of that, I'm thinking like there was only 2 different trophies for each character, depending on which ending they got. So that makes it sound like there's only 2 different endings per character. But then I'm just like, that can't be right because Heavy Rain had 22 endings.
Wow.
So I can't see them. Yeah, I can't see them cutting that down for this game. Wow. So yeah, it's like a whole bunch of conflicting stuff. And then I actually read a review today. I read a review today where someone was talking about how you can make all these different choices and it affects the gameplay and all that stuff. But then at the end, they were all like, your choices don't really have that much of an effect on the game because there's only one ending to it. And I'm like, that can't be right either. So there's a lot of conflicting stuff out there about that.
Interesting. It might be to you
right now for the end of the game, and it kind of looks like only 1, 2, 3 so far. I see. On the last mission for Connor.
Well, that was your last mission. Well, granted, this is your last mission for Connor, with Kara being completely out of the picture.
Yeah, let's see. How about Marcus?
Right.
Shit. How long is the lock? 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like so. That's 8 so far. But there's like separate trees and everything. So it's kind of crazy right now. I'm checking it right now.
So it looks like the 16 mark might be somewhat, and I guess too it depends on what you mean by ending, right? Like,
right. It's like you don't know if it's like going to be like with the ending thing. You don't know if it's like an entirely different scene or outcome, or if there's like multiple versions of the same one where certain parts of dialogue are different.
Right.
It's like it's hard to say, really.
Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic for a different game. And back to the whole like, is this worth $60, $50?
Yeah.
I mean, right now I feel like there's quite a bit of replay value to the game. Even if there's only 16 endings, it's like I'm less worried about the quantity of endings because the way the game plays out,
it's different enough to where you're going to get something new out of it every time you play it.
Oh, absolutely. Like one of the things that I'm curious about, like I've been telling Lisa, this poor Hank guy has seen his partner die 3 friggin' times, and it's clearly a traumatic experience for Hank to deal with it. So I'm interested in seeing like, so what happens long term to the relationship between Connor and his partner Hank, right? Does Hank over time does Hank perpetually avoid an attachment to the android, right? Because he realizes it's just a disposable asset, or is he allowed to get attached because he realizes, I still don't know Hank's full backstory.
Yeah,
so I don't know what his deal is, but if his deal involves losing somebody, maybe having a companion that he can't lose, like I'm really interested to see if that story changes in any way. Having, if I play it the second time through and I make better choices and Connor doesn't die, but like ideally, if I can have a scenario where Connor doesn't die at all, I don't know if that's even possible. Like maybe there's some deaths that he has to have, but if it is possible for him to either not die at all or at least die less, I'm interested to see if that has any bearing on the relationship between Connor and Hank. And the reason that I think that it does and it should is because there's that little neutral, right? They have that indicator of how Hank feels toward you. And this game doesn't do anything without a purpose behind it.
I just noticed something.
That's got to be building for something, right?
Onto Kara the night of the whole fight.
Yeah.
And outside the house, it literally has my street name on there. Like literally, my street name and the street part.
Oh man!
So you might go check your guys to see if it has yours.
Oh my God. Oh, I see what you're saying. Holy shit.
I'm not joking. I say literally, it's my address or my street names.
What scene did you see that in?
The opening scene where you fight Todd. Like literally, it's like outside the house.
Yeah.
And there's a pole right here with the street name. I have my street name on it.
What's your street name though? First,
Harrison Street. That's mine. That's what it said in the game.
oh, Jesus.
So that's not. So you about to go check, guys?
Oh, you got me looking up a playthrough on YouTube now.
Well, see, and this is what I love about the game, right? What I love about the game is exactly what we've been talking. We've gotten a good, I think, 45 minutes worth of mileage just talking about how to interpret what we see in the game. Everything from the title screen to scenes in the game. There are multiple times in the game where you're going to be going, now, wait a minute. Was that baked in? Does that always happen? Or is that based on me? Is that based on something that's going on like in the here and now? So I love that the game.
That's what it's called. We go check real quick.
I mean, as big of a fan as I am of playing a good game, I'm not gonna lie. I love it when a game plays me, and to a certain extent, this game plays me. So
Let's see.
I'm gonna check this real quick. It's called Stormy Night. That's the mission. Because it's different. That's scary. If it's mine, that's one of the coincidence.
You guys are all watching videos and stuff, right? Trying to figure out.
Yeah. It's wow. What are the odds of that? Yeah, same on playthrough. My street name. What are the odds of that? That's scary.
Oh wow. I was almost incredibly impressed with their location services team. Yeah. Now I will say too, another interesting thing about it. Now, did you say that Marcus didn't die for you, right, Jeremy?
Correct.
So you never had a scene with Marcus in a junkyard.
He wasn't junkyard, but he put himself together.
You didn't have to put yourself together.
No, I did, but he wasn't dead.
Ah, okay. Well, I guess that's what I mean. So
yeah.
So the scene in the junkyard there, I thought that there were the game very masterfully, like there's certainly parallels to things like the Holocaust. There's certainly parallels to things like slavery, things like segregation, right, and apartheid and things like that. There are definitely, the owner that beats his black android because it looked him in the eyes, right?
Yeah.
And then the android defends himself, but it's the android that gets charged, right? Like, and it doesn't matter that what he did was self-defense. It was like a android's life versus a human's life. The human's life is more important. The android should have let itself be destroyed rather than harm its owner, type thing. Very, very similar to old school discussions on slavery and things like that. So what I thought was also very interesting was and my wife and I were talking about this as I was driving home. Kara in the when she's got the when she's on the run, I'm going to try to do this as spoiler free as I can for you, Jeremy. When Kara's on the run, there are definitely scenes where you could draw parallels between what's going on in the game and how Kara and the little girl are being treated by the rest of society, with the current raging debate, which we're not going to get into on the show, but outside the show, folks are certainly aware there's a debate going on out there about what's happening in the U.S. with kids being now taken away from their parents, right? If a parent or a legal guardian from another country comes to the U.S. to a port of entry and wanting to seek asylum, which is a legal thing to do, they can do that. We don't have to grant the asylum, but they could still come and do it. Instead of just turning them away or putting them through a process where they get detained together as they go through the paperwork and everything. Now it's required that they actually take the kid away from the guardian for extended period of time, no contact, no voice, no video, no. In some cases, it's like literally like the parent is in Texas and the kid gets moved to like Chicago type thing and put in foster care or in a detention facility. The purpose that I'm bringing this up is not to talk about it in an extended way on the show. because I know that people have very strong feelings about it. I also have very strong feelings about it, but in the interest of keeping us gaming, I'm not going to get into it. But what I thought was interesting was, so this is just coming out now. I saw stuff in the game where Kara is considered differently from the kid, right? Like the kid is considered a real human of value, important stuff. Yeah, Kara is looked at everyone as just kind of this disposable, not human, not even animal worthy. And I just saw a lot of parallels of like, wow, like to punish a parent, you're going to do this thing to their kid, like at what point do you stop seeing people as people and things like that? And so I thought that, to Tyler's earlier point, I don't feel like the game is trying to talk about that situation, but what was amazing was how open the game is and just presenting this scenario where you could easily map it to like culturally relevant situations that are going on today, and you could have a discussion with somebody about it. There's a lot of people I know I couldn't necessarily talk about this immigration issue thing without them getting very heated and very agitated and everything. But I could talk to them about what's going on in this game and use it as like a stepping stool to go like, oh, okay, well, if you see this scene or you play this scene and it pisses you off that people are mistreating her and she's a machine, why aren't you pissed off that somebody's mistreating this other person that is an actual person and it's in real life, not a game? And so it gives you a very non-confrontational way for them to go like, hadn't really thought about that. Let's talk about it more. So I feel like whether you're just watching somebody play this game or whether you're playing through it yourself, the opportunity for it to open up dialogues that maybe we were embarrassed, afraid, or just didn't want to open up before, I feel like it kind of paves the road for some of those dialogues to happen. So I feel like even people that aren't really too into games, but maybe like a good movie or like a good show, I feel like they should maybe pick it up and try to play it, or at least watch somebody else pick it up and play it, and then discuss what they see, right? Maybe make some of the choices together and then talk about how they feel about the outcomes.
Yeah, that's kind of why my girlfriend got into it so much, because to her, she's like I guess she's a gamer to an extent, but she's one of those people where when she plays something, she's all like, okay, what do I do here? What do I do next? Which gets annoying super fast. But like with Detroit, it's a lot like a movie, obviously. So I think that's why she gets into it. And like, because right, and like before, like it was like she's not one of those people that likes to sit there and walk around on a map nonstop trying to figure shit out. Right. And like with Detroit, for example, you do something in a room and then you look to the other side of the room and then it basically the camera points at where you need to go next. It does that a lot. Yeah. So I guess you could say it's kind of hand holding to an extent, but like another example is have you ever played Until Dawn?
No, I haven't, but I haven't played yet.
Until Dawn is very similar to that. And when I played that game, she sat there and watched me play the whole game and then was all like, I want to try that game too. And then a couple years ago when Heavy Rain came out, when it was re-released on PlayStation 4, she sat there and watched me play that too. And then with Detroit, and like all three of those games are played very similar to each other. So yeah, if you're not a gamer and you're into movies, you can get in those games very easily.
So now I heard, and this is why I avoided the game, not necessarily any like moralistic reasons or anything, just because it's more like I didn't want my son like getting the game, popping in and playing. I read somewhere, but maybe I'm confusing it with another game, that there's a quick time event sex scene in the game. Is this true?
Which game?
Heavy Rain.
Yeah, that is true. Heavy Rain. It's not like hardcore stuff. It's something that like you would probably see it on like basic cable, okay. But there is nudity in the game.
Yeah, there's like top frontal nudity, right?
Yeah, and shows an ass too here and there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let's get this.
So there you go. Jeremy's adding it to his like Instagram right now.
Like she started Heavy Rain earlier today, and like I walked in the room. I'm like, "How's it going so far? You like it?" And she's all like, "I just saw the guy's ass when I was getting a shower or something like that."
Right. So so Jeremy, Have you experienced any nudity in the game so far? You played the whole game.
Unfortunately, no. Just at the strip club. That's about it. There's no nudity there.
Ah, okay, okay. I haven't made it there. I haven't made it there yet. But
I'll play that part for
my
you.
wife will find it comforting to. There's a couple of things like the language. I do have to say, anybody that's looking to get this game, although I think everybody should play the game, I do feel like folks, this rating on here, this rating is not like a token like rating. Like, take this shit seriously. There is stuff in here. You want to at least play it, I'd say, for a couple hours before you decide whether or not it's something that you want to let your kids play and how old they ought to be to play it. I wouldn't just hang on the M for mature, right? There are things in here that can serve as triggers if you've had some traumatic experiences of your own. So, and even if you haven't, if you're an impressionable mind, there are some things in there that could leave some lasting impressions. So I will give that warning. That is not to say don't play the game by any means, because it's all very artfully and very tastefully done. And you know, but there are some things in there that, you know, if you let your teenager play this game, it would really be in your best interest to talk to them about their playthrough, talk to them about things that they saw, choices that they made, how they felt about it, like all this kind of stuff. I think that not in a like babysit and be worried about them, so to speak, but more in a, I feel like this game was meant to be played and talked about. And so, you know, the dialogue that you have with them, I think, will be very informative and insightful for them as well as for you. And there is, you know, there is the chance that I think that there could be some trauma from playing this game if you played it too young. I would not let like a 5-year-old play this game.
So none of my nephews.
Now that depends. Like for example, the hostage negotiation scene, right? Like my son, who's 15, I told him, dude, you got to play the demo. You have to play the demo. I didn't feel like there was anything so bad in the demo that my son couldn't handle it. That said, I do feel like, you know, maybe the domestic abuse scenes are maybe a bit too intense for him just yet. So, but I mean, that's me making my own judgment call for my own child. I'm not saying that should be everybody's judgment call for their kids, but do know this isn't like Mortal Kombat where there's like maybe a whole bunch of violence and gore, but it's like so over the top and corny that you know that it's not real. Like the stuff that happens in this, part of the most freaky thing is, in my mind, they present a future that could be very real in the next 20 to 30 years. They didn't get everything right, but I feel like they got a lot right. So the future feels like a very real future. It's a very dark future. The situation, they don't candy coat or sugarcoat the situations at all. Like the domestic abuse thing, like I feel like I was standing right there in the middle of like a real scenario because they didn't pull any punches. So know that going into it, that the game is very intense.
I give it a 9 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10, but definitely.
You give the game a 9 out of 10?
Only I didn't like, I understand where they're coming from, it's the controllers, because it can be a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yeah. My biggest thing is when I screw up a scene because I couldn't understand what they were trying to tell me to do with the controller.
Yeah. Well, I like playing controllers.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think the controls sometimes get a little bit janky, get a little bit in the way. Tyler, is there anything you don't like about the game or you think that they could have improved?
I don't have any complaints about it. I mean, it's not really an issue to me because I'm used to it because of Heavy Rain, but I think the controls probably could have been improved more now I think about it, because they are kind of stiff and kind of wonky on parts. Yeah. But again, like with you guys, you would see that as an issue, but with me, I'm like, I'm used to it because it controlled the exact same way in Heavy Rain.
Gotcha.
In Heavy Rain, it was a lot worse actually, so they kind of improved on it with Detroit.
I feel like when Quantic Dream decides to do VR, I feel like they're gonna nail it.
Yeah. Because this is like closest VR I've ever seen to the game actually do.
Yeah, I mean when you're fighting somebody in this scene, right? When you're fighting Todd the controls don't really feel like they work very well. But when you're Marcus and you're pulling off your busted leg and you're installing another one, that feels very natural, actually.
Right.
So to your point, I think there are times when they kind of nail it. I'm excited that they're at least experimenting with it because a lot of folks use the motion controls and the 6-axis as like a gimmicky thing. I like how they're actually trying to figure out like, no, how does it make you feel like you're that character? So I think that'll give them a leg up. Ooh, look what I did, an inadvertent pun there.
I'm surprised they didn't put in move controls.
I know, right?
Because like the reason I say that is because like with Heavy Rain when that came out, they were saying that there was going to be a downloadable content to where it added extra chapters, and there was supposed to be 4 of them, I think it was. Well, they released one and then canceled the rest just so they can implement move controls into the game.
Oh wow!
So I'm surprised that they didn't do that this time.
Yeah, that's it. I wonder if that's because PlayStation VR is maybe still too niche in its deployment. I think there's only like 600,000 of them out there, actually.
Well, I mean, at the time, like VR wasn't around yet because like the move controls, they've been around for about probably like 10 years now.
Yeah. Oh, right. But I guess what I mean is until the PSVR, there wasn't really a lot of move compatible PlayStation 4 games.
Right.
So I wonder if they're worried about the install base there maybe not being big enough. But I'm with you though. I think one of the things that had me most excited about PlayStation VR actually had nothing to do with VR. It was that they were finally going to maybe get developers to take the move controls seriously again, because
I love PlayStation VR.
when the move controls are done right, I love the PlayStation move controls. So you combine them with something like VR, and I think it's a sweet spot. All right.
Have you done PlayStation VR yet?
I have not yet.
Man.
Sell me on. We went kind of long today, but it's an excellent topic, so I'm glad that we did. I do want to kind of wrap some stuff up, but before I do, I'll give you maybe 5 minutes. Sell me on VR, Tyler.
The only thing I could really say to sell you on it is play Resident Evil 7.
Okay.
That's all I gotta say.
All right. So you think Resident Evil 7 worth the cost of entry alone?
Yeah, the thing with VR is like I think I told you this before over Messenger or whatever. Like Oculus is obviously the best one as far as picture quality goes, but I put PlayStation VR above that because it has the better games. Because like with Oculus, you got to go through an app store and go through a whole bunch of crap to find anything good. With PlayStation, the titles are obviously limited, and it's gonna be easier to find better games on there. So that's why I put PlayStation 1 above it. Because like with PlayStation VR, you got Resident Evil 7, which is amazing in VR, and then you also have Doom VFR, and believe it or not, Until Dawn: Rush of Blood, that's a good VR game too. Because like with VR, what makes VR fun is like, actually, let me back up a little bit. There's 3 things in VR that are pretty much guaranteed to be fun, and that's roller coasters, motion controls where you're in the shooting gallery and you get to shoot stuff, and horror. Until Dawn: Rush of Blood combines all 3 of those in the one game. You're literally it's a horror game, and you're riding on a roller coaster the entire time shooting monsters.
Interesting.
Wow.
So those 3 games on VR, and they're only on PlayStation.
Nice.
But Doom VR, I think that is on Oculus actually, so I could be wrong on that. Or not Oculus. I meant Vive. That's the one I meant. Vive is the one with the better picture quality. Yeah.
Especially if you get the Vive Pro, right?
Yeah.
The new Vive Pro, I think they've got the wider angle and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, like Vive rules, and it's got amazing picture quality. It's a lot better than the PlayStation 1, but it's just like I said, it's harder to find games for it.
Yeah. So folks, Phaserco, you just joined us, my friend, and we're shutting down for the night. Rec Room, though, Phaserco says Rec Room is also fun on PSVR.
Yeah, Rec Room, that's on VR. I played it on Vive, but I haven't done it on PlayStation yet.
So folks, if you have not checked out this game, check out the game. If you're hating on the game without having played it, The demo is free, and so there's no reason that you can't experience what this game is like with the
And it's
demo.
worth the $60.
Yeah, if you play the demo and you don't like it, not your cup of tea, doesn't really impress you, that's fine, I guess. Some people don't like drinking water.
I do think it is a game where you have to play the demo first before buying it, because that's a
Absolutely.
genre that's hit or miss.
Oh yeah. It's definitely, it's one of those not everybody's cup of tea. If you like deep stories, if it doesn't play like a traditional game, right? It's not like a hit left, hit this button, jump over the platform. Like it's more kind of to I think Tyler, you'd mentioned it's more kind of anybody that's played Heavy Rain, it plays like Heavy Rain. Anybody that hasn't played Heavy Rain, it's more like the Resident Evil parts that are like quick time events, right? Do this with a controller, do that with a controller, and then things happen. It's more like a kind of a Telltale game mixed with those quick time events. So you'll get to have different dialogue choices and everything. The voice acting is amazing. The cinematography is amazing. The graphics are absolutely amazing. I don't usually do numbers on games.
Dude, the lighting in that game rules.
It's the HDR is amazing. If you're watching this on a 4K HDR display, it is mind blowing. Even just the
like I got to that level where you go to the house at night, and when you're playing as Connor, and all the cop cars are outside and it's raining, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, holy shit, this looks amazing.
Oh yeah. So folks, check out the demo. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. If you like the demo, you will love this. Power through the dishwashing, power through the throwing the trash, power through the taking the man to the potty. Like
you can go do the laundry out back too.
Oh yeah. I did the whole the only thing I didn't do is did any of you guys turn on the vacuum cleaner?
I didn't do that.
I was not about to. My wife's like, you need to vacuum. I'm like, he just ripped me a new asshole for walking in front of the TV. I am not about to turn on the vacuum cleaner.
I did turn on the vacuum, the mini vacuum. Yeah.
Does he go nuts?
No.
Really?
I did find a bag of red ice while cleaning.
Yeah, I found that too. And then he got really upset. Right? Gives you a little preview for what you can expect later. Now that does seem to be a theme, by the way. That a lot of these, except for the first droid that goes nuts because they're going to replace him. The other, there's quite a few encounters there with people that have had red ice. So that looks to be a reoccurring theme that red ice abuse is leading people to be, is probably a bigger problem than the androids going rogue, because every time the androids go rogue, it's just because somebody's horribly mistreating them or someone else. And the android is responding the way a human being probably ought to respond. But yeah. So folks, check out the demo. Worth the $60. You have 3 of us here saying worth the $60. So that's not worth nothing. But if you're still on the fence, try the demo. And if you like it, you'll love the game. So Tyler, thanks for coming out and giving us some of your input on the game.
Especially last minute, like 5 minutes before show. Hit up Tyler. He likes the game.
Jeremy's like, you should call Tyler. I'm like, 5 minutes before the show, I'm gonna say, Tyler, do you want to come on the show? He's like, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I knew you liked the game because you post.
Yeah. I just haven't finished it yet. Been working on the next game and then taking a break, sitting on the couch watching Silicon Valley, because I just now started watching that show a few days ago, and then get a message like, hey, you want to come on the show talk about Detroit? Sure, why not?
Absolutely. So folks, check it out. I'm actually going to sign off, and I'm going to go play some more Detroit right now.
I literally had it on ready to play already.
Take care, guys.
Good night.